The apps that we have created so far, whether it be the to-do list app or any other examples that we have seen so far, we have included our app.js file at the bottom of our HTML document. And the reason for that is that, let's say if we do not have it at the bottom and maybe we have it in the header element, let's say like this, our app is not going to work. So let's say I'm going to refresh over here and I'm going to try to enter some details. It doesn't work. And the reason for that is that when the HTML document is being parsed by the browser, it comes line by line and it implements this particular file and tries to run this code. And when it comes over here and says, okay, I gotta get the form element and these different elements, it does not find it because the DOM or the browser has not yet read these lines of code. That's why the app does not work. Now, there is an event inside the browser that allows us to run certain code only when the browser DOM is ready, when the document is ready. So now I went into the details very fast, so let me slow down a little bit. So let's say you're working on a project, whether it be in a company or maybe you're working on a particular CMS. Let's say you're working with WordPress or any other different softwares, and they require you that you add your JS files, let's say at the top, right? That it happens many at times. Most of the times, the script element is actually at the top, sometimes at the bottom, but a lot of times at the top. So let's say if your boss comes in and says, hey, we require that all the script elements be on the header element. And you're like, hey, it's not going to work. But actually, I'm going to tell you today the way to make it work and make it work correctly, okay? So we're going to go to our event reference cheat sheet, which we can easily get to from Google. So when we just Google events and Mozilla, you're going to get a list of, let's say, let me just search that. This link is going to show up, event reference, which is going to have a list of all the events that the browser has. Now we're going to go down over here and look for HTML DOM events over here. We found it. I'm going to expand this. And the number one sub item over here is DOM content loaded. So let me click over here and see what that is. So over here it says that the DOM content loaded event is fired when the initial HTML document has been completely loaded and parsed without waiting for style sheet images and subframes for finish loading. So what it's saying is that DOM content loaded is an event in the browser that triggers when the app is being processed by the browser and it reads the entire HTML document. When it studies it completely, the DOM content loaded event fires. So we can actually use that particular event and say, okay, when the browser has finished reading our document, then we want to run all of our code. All right. So that is the right way of writing code. So we're going to implement that. So right now my app is the way it is. And if I refresh over here, nothing works. Okay. So we're going to make this work just with this particular event, right? DOM content loaded. Now there's another event over here, which is called load event. The load event is slightly different than the DOM content loaded event. The DOM content loaded only works or triggers when the entire DOM has been read by the browser, as I've told you before. But the load event triggers when the entire document is loaded, plus all the images, all the CSS, all the JavaScript, all the sub components are all read and finished loading, and everything is downloaded to the browser. Then it actually triggers the load event. But for us, we just need this one, okay? So let's see how it works. I'm going to scroll down over here, and over here they should have an example. So here it is. We're going to say simply document.add event listener, put in this particular event, and run a function. Simple as that, right? It's just an event listener that we're going to add. So over here, I'm going to come and say document.add event listener, and the event name is DOM content loaded. Let me see if I got my spellings right. DOM, D-O-M is all capital, C is capital, and L is capital. All right, so I got that right. And the next parameter is a callback function. So what you want to do is all of this code from line number 20 all the way to line number 63, I'm going to actually cut it and actually paste it, all of it, inside this callback function. All right, so like such, I just did that, and thanks to VS Code, it automatically formatted my code with the right spacing. Thank you very much, VS Code. All right, I'm simply going to save, and now I'm going to refresh, and now it should work. All right, perfect. Our app works. So what happened over here is this code, even when we actually added our JS file in the header element, it came over here and says, okay, I see some code. I'm not going to run this code. All right, and that's it. And it resumes working with the reading all the HTML files and reading it line by line and loading the DOM elements. When it finishes that, this particular event triggers, and then this particular function runs. And when that runs, it runs these lines line by line, and then our app starts working. So that's how you actually make that's the modern way, that's the right way of writing your app, is to run your code only when certain conditions have met or your browser DOM is ready. Now, one more optimization I want to suggest over here is that rather than having all this code written like such, I'm actually going to create a function and call it init. Init simply means initialization. So I'm simply going to cut all of this. All right, so this is just one line of code now, and I'm going to paste it over here. And I'm going to scroll up, and the name of the function is going to be init. All right, that's it. So all of this is going to be inside the init function. And over here, I'm going to simply put the name of the function like such. So document.addEventListener, when this event runs, then run this function. So it's the same thing that I did. I just named the function. So it just makes our code a little bit more organized and you know what's happening. So that's also, let me just refresh and show you this works. Refresh, and I'm going to just type in some stuff, and it works as expected. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to talk to you in the next.